Genlock Episode 5, Best Defense. This episode, definitely entertaining. It actually surprised me. It pleasantly surprised me because I wasn't expecting them to bring back the, evil Holland or whatever they're going to end up naming it. I wasn't expecting that to come back in this episode. I was very happy about that. I thought this episode was going to be, of course, after what happened in last week's episode, it was going to be Cammie kind of dealing with the process of what happened to her, like feeling like her head was ripped off and stuff like that. And it was definitely there. It was basically the first half of the episode, but they fast tracked it. It was like, in the pretty much within like the first, I think 5 or 10 minutes of the episode, they were like, hey, should we really be pushing her like this? She's messing up. And it's like, yeah, we have to keep pushing her. She's been falling behind. So it kind of shows that they've been training since then. Like, it's probably been at least a week for them, or, maybe 2 weeks even. So they've gone through training since that happened, and she's still been dealing with it. They talk about her having dreams where she's like nude and stuff like that. Her exosuit is there, but Madrani apparently is like just totally nude without breasts. And then Valentina was like, yeah, I've had dreams about being a robot, but I still have the parts. And I love that scene because Madrani's like, well, why would a robot need parts? And it's like, because it's fun. It's like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. So I thought that was pretty funny, but I like the way it was handled where she's constantly dealing with this dream. So, every time she wakes up, she's working on her legs. And I thought that was pretty cool. And so, of course, she doesn't tell anyone that she's doing that because technically, she's not supposed to be. But they do get the first steps towards, their new mech versions. And I guess technically, Chase has his completed. I'd have to watch the opening again, but I'm pretty sure all he had was the wings and there weren't any other, alterations to his. And I don't think Madrani actually had, anything. No, hers was totally different. I'm totally crazy. Hers was totally different. So hers is completely different, but I think his is pretty much exactly the same. They just added the wings. So I think he gets the basic one and he keeps the body just as the wings, and everyone else gets new or different altered parts. But this is the beginning of that, so we get to see the characters use new weapons. Cammie gets a little drone which helps her with aim assist. Valentina, of course, she gets a sniper rifle. Kazu gets a katana, which I thought was cool, and that's just because I like katanas, obviously, based on my name. So we got to see everybody utilize new techniques and stuff like that. Madrani, I think, was the only one that actually didn't, and I guess it makes sense because her mech also gets wings. She just gets much cooler wings because she gets the crazy angel thing with 6 spirals or 6 spikes or whatever on it from the opening. So it makes sense that in this episode she didn't actually get anything, not that I can recall at least, that was a special thing. But it was nice. It was nice to see the first couple of steps. I mentioned in my last review that I was hoping this was going to be the episode where they just pushed it, they get the brand new mechs entirely in this episode. But I like the way they handled it, especially considering they went through the process of skipping time, where it's she's been falling behind for weeks or whatever. So I was like, all right, since they did that and it wasn't, the whole episode wasn't solely focused on Cammie suffering, I was like, all right, I'll accept that kind of fast track version and a slight upgrade compared to it's just her story the whole episode and then they get them at the end and we don't see anything happen. So I was like, admittedly, considering how it played out, we actually got to see them get a slight upgrade and utilize that. So it was more entertaining than they just get them at the end and then we have to wait another week to see them use them. So I was fine with it. Ultimately, by the end, it was that's sweet. We got to actually see them do that. So I love that for sure. And then, of course, they're going to be pushing forward. So I don't know. Based on my prediction, like I said, I thought they were going to get their mechs in this episode. But for some characters, I think it would be faster than others. And that I think would be cool too if they did it the characters got upgrades separately. Madrani would have to get the last one because hers is literally totally different. She gets an entirely gold/yellow mech with the crazy wings. It looked like it was completely different. And like I said, I'd have to look at the opening again to check her and Chase's stuff out. But everyone gets different outfits pretty much. They get it customized. Valentina gets a crazy, giant mech cloak. So I'm Holland cloak technology, how long does that take to make? Cammie working on the legs, I would assume she would get hers first because she's already been working on it, but I would assume Weller's also been working on the other parts because that's why they have the weapons now. So it'll be interesting to see if they kind of just push it out where everyone gets the upgrades all at once. But it would be kind of cool to see them get upgrades over time. And I think that would actually be entertaining. And we watch it maybe by the time they get to the middle of the season or something, that's when they officially do it. And I don't know how many episodes we're supposed to have. But, somewhere down the line, before the season's over, it's boom, now they officially have the fully upgraded mechs. I would assume they would do that before the season finale. They won't save it as the final episode. That's when everyone finally has the mechs from the actual opening. But we'll have to wait and see at this point. But menial upgrades throughout. I think that'll be fine. So I like to see that in this episode. Cammie, of course, being the most entertaining character, story wise at least, we get to see her do some brand new stuff as well. So we are revealed to the fact that everyone within their suits can actually change their own personalities. She boosted confidence, reflexes, and it was either one or two other things. I didn't get to actually read the titles, but I know confidence and like reflex and reflex speed were like put to the max. So I was like, okay, that's a brand new element that they just introduced. So it's not necessarily recommended, but they can do it. Weller can, of course, turn them down. My first assumption is when you do something like that, you boost confidence, you boost reflexes, that burns through your uptime. Like, I just assume, like, considering what she went through mentally, freaking out and stuff, it would, burn her out. It would be the same thing if you were, like, guns blazing, high octane adrenaline 100% of the time. So it would just burn their time down, like 50% or something. So I think this will be one of the things that they introduce later down the line when they're in like some insane battles. And it's like, man, we have to, we can't figure it out. They just boost their confidence and reflex speed as a team. And then they go in and they like destroy whatever enemy they end up facing. So I think that'll be cool. That's something, like I said, they introduce it. Other characters didn't know, like Kazu's like, oh, so we can, kind of change ourselves mentally while in there. And of course, it's a dangerous scenario, but I thought that was cool. So I was very excited to see that. Definitely entertaining. Watching Cammie like go nuts and she's shooting it. What the F is going on out there? Somebody's like knocking on the door. But she's shooting everything. Like her reflexes are like perfect. And then she goes to fight Kazu and he's like super excited. Like that was great. And everyone's just like looking at him like he's crazy. So it was fun to see that happen. Watch her character develop and try to find a way to just push past the pain that she's been feeling and that mental block she's having because she faced something that kind of ripped her head off. So thought that was great. They go through their mission. I was like, well, this is cool. She's holding onto the back of the truck and like sliding down the road, shooting stuff, and they're, attacking the towers and everything. And I was like, this is cool. They end up rescuing a scientist who was believed dead for a long time. I was like, this is fun. We get to see them use their weapon. This is pretty sweet. And then it gets to the end of the episode and the mech comes back. And I was like, like I said in the beginning of my review, I did not see that coming. And I was so happy when that happened because I was like, well, that's cool. Because timeline-wise, it made sense because they mentioned there'd been a decent progression of time since the last fight. So to see it come back, super excited because I was like, all right, well, now we get to see Cammie face it in the very next episode. And that was fun. And she still, when it came down to it, she didn't know what to do. She tried fighting. It didn't really work too well. Madrani tried to get in and, take it down, and then it basically did a little judo flip and she was down on the ground in 2 seconds and it was about to start fighting. And so Cammie's freaking out. Valentina's like, I can't see. So they do like the eye link, the mind link, and they share vision. So that I thought was cool. And then we have some real crazy stuff. The theory food is just thrown right in at the end of this episode. Because of course it's like, all right, well, what is this mech? Is it like, obviously it's not a Genlock thing. So it's some sort of weird imitation or something like that. That was clear from the very beginning. It's like they were going for the actual technology. It was clear that it was an imitation. So it was either pilots. Someone mentioned like it could be 2 pilots, it could be AI, or it could be like a pilot and an AI, which I thought was pretty cool. Someone mentioned that on my last review. And I thought that was cool. I thought that would have been really fun to watch because it would be like episode 2, where if they destroyed the mech, the fighter could get out of the mech, or, some crazy scenario where they destroy the mech, but then they have to get out as well. It wouldn't make sense really. Unless all the mechs got wiped out at the same time, like a weird EMP thing. But somehow the AI could be protected, or if it's like implanted inside the person, or something weird like that. They could have situations similar to episode 2, which I thought would have been cool. But in this episode, it's like, all right, it says stuff. I had to read comments for this, so thank you, people on Verve. Also, weird thing for anyone who'd watched this on Rooster Teeth, on Verve, for whatever reason, they had it marked as like episode 7. I thought that was super weird. Like everybody was commenting and freaking out, like, what happened to episodes 5 and 6? And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's just, I just watched it. I didn't even freak out. I was like, it's probably just marked wrong, and I just watched it. But yeah, my fellow Verve viewers, I was there in the beginning. But it was interesting, the I guess the anti-Halon, if we want to call it that, it was saying stuff that Chase had said before. And I don't know exactly what that means, if it was just old recordings. I mean, it's a phrase that he said. Like, I think the very last one that he said was like, let the good times roll. That may have been like the very first one. But it was basically going through stuff that he'd said throughout the episodes. And I think they were all 3 of those lines were within the first 2 episodes. So they easily could have been taken from the battlefield and just little stuff. But it's like, obviously something there. Like, something is there where it's attached to Chase's character, something going on with the Genlock program, for whatever reason, excuse me, it's somehow tied to Chase specifically because it didn't say stuff based on the other characters. It was specifically just dialogue that Chase has said throughout the series. So I'm not sure what that means. A little chunk of his brain was found by the Union or something weird like that. But I'm looking forward to some answers. We probably won't get them anytime soon. But I thought that was cool because it definitely added to the crazy, theory fodder. Like, what the F is going on with this mech? And at this point, I do believe it is complete AI, or at least a robot, I guess. But it'll be interesting to see how that ends up playing out because now they've added that extra little layer where it's somehow attached to Chase. They don't reference it much either. So, it was the end of the episode, so they don't have the characters react to, what just happened there. But I'm pretty sure they'll be talking about that. Like, hey, it said some stuff that's kind of only from you. What the F is up with that? So I'm very curious what answers we're going to be getting. It was very interesting to watch the fight at the end with Chase, like, flying around and stuff. That looked pretty cool. Like mini series action scenes just end like he got kicked off and he just didn't try to fly back and grab it again or shoot it out of the sky. They all just stood there and stopped. I mean, admittedly, like Valentina had the gun, she could have like shot the ship or anything like that, and nothing happened. Like after Chase got kicked down, they just stood there and watched it fly away, and I was like, huh. Like at first, like I noticed that like, when he got kicked off, I was like, can he just like, do a little mid-air cool flip? I mean, he flew jets. Just do a backflip mid-air, have the jets blasted like max power so you don't crash into the ground. Shoot back up. And somebody else mentioned that. I was like, he gave up. He got kicked off once, and then he just stood there. And, I didn't think of it at the time, but I was like, yeah, they could have even shot it. Valentina has a sniper rifle. It's meant for long-range stuff. Easily could have shot it. Probably couldn't have shot the actual rope, but could have shot something, like the ship itself. I mean, I feel like there were a couple options that they still had there, and it was like, plot, and it just flew away, and then that was the end of the episode. But I still enjoyed it, but that was just the thing. I was like, it's like, everybody's here. Like, let's just shoot the thing down, shoot the actual ship. I mean, they defeated the mech that time, and I was just like, I just, like I said, it was plot. It was like, I can't, plot air control right there, and it just stopped them. So, yeah, that's just how the episode ended. But still enjoyed it. Still a really good episode. But looking forward to next week's, of course. Naturally, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. I didn't anticipate having this as my question for the end of this review. But since they brought the mech back in and they gave us more kind of theory fodder, updated theories on what in the world this mech is, I now don't believe that there's a pilot within it. I do think it's completely AI, or at least a robot, or some advanced system. Like I think I mentioned in my last review, they don't specify exactly what is AI and what's not AI, and what's being controlled. So it's hard to say if it's officially an AI. I would assume it is because of the stuff that happens with it. I feel like it's way too fast paced for it to just be a normal person. But I don't know. It could be a lesser version of Genlock. We don't know if Weller had some old buddies that he betrayed, and now he took Genlock for himself. So they have like the earlier version, but it's not as good. So it could be just the early prototype of Genlock, and that's why they're trying to take the the new version of the tech, because they couldn't figure out what Weller unlocked when he basically took everything and went on its own. So it could be that sort of thing, like another scientist that used to work with Weller that Weller pissed off or just left behind. So that could be the case, and it would make sense why it has these weird almost psychic links to stuff that Chase has said. Chase being the very first person, I feel like that's why it's easily attached to Chase, because if it was Madrani, it would also make sense in that case if she had been the first one, it probably would have been closer linked to her. So that's my theory right now, is that it was someone that used to work with Weller that may have switched sides to the Union. I assume Weller's never been a part of the Union. I feel like at this point, anyone that's been with the Union, that sort of thing would have been referenced. Like they did it with Madrani. I feel like they would have done it, especially with the second episode, with the reveal that she used to be a part of the Union, with the guy basically killing someone and trying to infiltrate. I feel like that would have been something they threw in. Like, Weller used to be a part of the Union too. Like, I feel like that would have been a part of the plan to kind of disrupt the flow of the system, but nothing was said there. Like, they didn't mention anything about Madrani and how she may have betrayed Weller and how she could have, worked with the Union while seemingly, working for Weller, and then eventually she actually worked with Weller and left the Union behind. Little stuff like that. I'm like, I think that would have all come up in episode 2, because if you have someone going in to disrupt the system and steal tech, and he knows he's failing, you can at least have him be like, hey, these people used to work for the Union and she betrayed you for 3 months and you didn't even know it. little stuff like that I think could have been thrown in there. And since none of that ended up happening, I'm like, yeah, that's probably not the case. So my current theory is it's just an old person that used to work with Weller that somehow has early, like the early prototype version of Genlock, and that's why it technically could speak, but it could only speak based on what it already heard from, from Chase. It was basically using like old footage pretty much from him. So that's kind of my theory on it. Probably totally wrong, because who the F knows? It's so early to be throwing out theories, but that's the fun of a theory. Naturally, I would love to know your theories, like I said, and of course, in general, what you guys thought about this episode. So please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.